Hello everyone, my name is Justin. I just wanted to share my testimony with everyone and show why I try to seek the Father in my daily walk of life. I feel like the best way for me to start of explaining myself is to start with my childhood or even my previous generation influence. So if you can bear with me, I will explain myself so you would have an understanding of why I say certain things and why I comprehend certain things of the scripture. So I'll start off with my father, and in short, I'll say that the Father had changed my dad at a very young age, and because of my dad's lack of understanding the scriptures, in my opinion, he ended up rebelling and lived his entire life being against the Father. And he would express much hatred when the topic would come up. So, as a child, being raised with him, my parents were divorced, so I'd go back and forth between the two. My mother was a believer, but it was never pushed on myself or any of my siblings throughout our lives. She never took us to church. She never read scripture to us. She just kind of did her thing, and that was about it. So there was no religious inspiration, I guess, for my mother throughout my childhood. My father, on the other hand, he ended up remarrying a preacher's daughter. So before I get to that part of the story of my childhood, I'll just rewind back and explain a little bit about myself. And for whatever reason, as a kid growing up, I can't even think of the age at all. I was very non-observant my entire life on everything. But as a child, I remember back when maybe I was in first grade age, whatever age that is. And I do remember, my mom uh, celebrating Christmas. And anyways, I remember seeing my stepdad like in the middle of the night putting presents in the living room. And it just kind of, I guess at an early age, it just kind of opened up my eyes like, hey, these people do this for us. My parents, they do this for us. And so, with that said, I wasn't completely just brainwashed or manipulated in my mind that, hey, this is Santa Claus or something along those lines. I guess I was a little bit more mature about it, and was aware of the reality uh, that it was my parents giving to us. Well, for whatever odd reason, I can't think of anything tragic happening in my life. Uh, my parents had split up when I was like one, like a baby, like 1 years old, or something along those lines, 2 years old. So I really don't even remember that. So I don't think that really had the huge impact, but maybe it did. But anyways, as a child growing up, I always had this. I was I viewed things differently than the most kids would. For instance, uh, birthdays. Anytime, or whenever my birthday would come up, and again, I can remember maybe as far back as like third grade or earlier than that. My parents get super excited and get me gifts, and they just give me a bunch of gifts, but I wasn't happy about that. And they'd be all happy and have this big old huge smile on their face, like, oh, open the presents, and I'd be like, oh, okay, and I would deliberately unwrap the presents the way that they wrapped them. I'd sit there and pick at the tape until the tape would come off clean, and then I would unfold it just the way that they folded it. So it'd be like a nice, perfect sheet of wrapping paper that could be used again whenever I get done opening the gift, and then I would say, oh, thank you, whatever. Uh, but anyways, it's kind of odd stuff. I was oddball kid growing up, and I never really was big into my birthday being celebrated, or big into some holidays of getting a bunch of material stuff given to me. I just it wasn't something that I looked forward to at all. And but then also as I was getting older, and going to school, I I just remember I used to always question, uh, I guess the authority figures. Not necessarily my parents. I don't recall questioning them, like giving them a hard time or anything. Not until I became a teenager and just wanted to go, do this, that, or another. But as a younger child growing up, I don't recall uh, being a disobedient child. Maybe they might say otherwise, but uh, but anyways, I used to always question uh, things as a child, uh, for like school, for instance. And I remember as early as probably fourth grade, uh, whatever age that is. Um, One thing that I wanted to do, one thing that I never really cared for was school, and I could remember at a very young age, like I said, maybe fourth grade, that I just wanted to quit school. And I remember telling my stepmom uh, how I couldn't wait till I quit school, and I was pretty young. And anyways, of course, she's like, no, 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 you're not gonna be quitting school, you know. And so, anyways, I just had I guess a lot of people would say, a negative or rebellious look on life at a very early age. For whatever reason, again, I don't know why. Well, my stepmom, I didn't meet her until I was maybe second grade, uh, sometime maybe second grade age. And um, anyways, I didn't have any problems with my stepmom or my stepbrother or stepsister. Everything was all cool. I had no problem. Um, she was very into going to church, um, and also my grandmother was into going to church. So the small handful of times that I went to church uh, with my grandmother and also with my stepmother um, at a very early age, I didn't pay any attention to anything. I was just young and whatever, oblivious, and there was nothing there, good or bad. It was just I had to go to church, and I didn't really care to go that much, but it it was what it was. But as kind of got a little bit older, we ended up moving close to my stepmother's family, and again, you know, she was a preacher's daughter, and so we ended up moving close to her family, and so of course, whenever we moved close to her family, um, the church was right up the street, and so then it was I guess you could say, you know, it was enforced a lot heavier. Uh, you know, I guess got to please people or whatever you want to call it, you know. And you know, my dad, he wouldn't want to go to church, or you know, he either wouldn't go to church, and then I had to go to church no matter what, you know, with my stepmother and you know, my siblings. But anyways, my dad would either not go to church or he would go to church and sleep. He'd sleep the whole time. You know, he'd be in the back and sleeping. And but anyways, I I really didn't want to go to church. You know, I was like, hey, Mike, you're not going to church. Well, why do I got to go? So I don't, you know, I don't want to do this. But anyways, you know, happy wife, happy life. So you gotta you gotta go to church. You know, So that's kind of how it was. And so, anyways, I really didn't care for it going, and but not only were they very, very passionate, which was awesome, very awesome. They were very passionate on letting people know the truth, and anyways, they were just preaching how awesome God is and Jesus, and seek Him, so on and so forth. And I'm sure most of y'all are aware of what is said, but anyways, my observation of the people would, I guess, reflect it otherwise, and all I could see was hypocrisy, and and that really, it either put a negative, very negative impact. Ultimately, it did put a very negative impact on my life, but as a believer now, I think it was beneficial as well. But therefore, most of my life, it did. I will say it absolutely put a negative impact on me, and I grew up with a strong hatred uh, towards God and His Word. I I hated it. I hated Him with a passion. I did. I'll say that I I hated Him so much that I actually, I've got a tattoo on my back of three upside down crosses and two pentagrams. Uh, it's all together as one symbol. It was a band. It, it was something that a band had put together. Obviously, there's symbolic meaning to it. The meaning for which they were portraying it as was deicide, and that was the name of the band. But anyhow, that really, I really enjoyed that idea, unfortunately. And so, anyways, I lived my life uh, growing up being against him, and with a very strong hatred uh, towards towards the Father, and I had no desire to seek Him uh, whatsoever. Um, and honestly, there's some there's some stuff about that I probably shouldn't even repeat. But yeah, I had a very, very, very negative view, and so that was pretty much my 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 life. I had a lot of idolatry, adulterousness, just promiscuous, multiple things. Well, not only did I have hatred for the Father, I I also, I again, I was very rebellious, uh, and I would question things and why why this, why that, and I remember as a probably 12 or 13 years old. The teachers, what are you going to do with your life, and so on and so forth. What are you going to do all this? And I just remember, like, what do you mean? Like, we're not born to do all this. Like, you invented this, or we invented this. The school system, the just everything, the world, the world we live in, going to work, the dollar, everything was invented. Um, so I acknowledged that when I pretty young. But anyways, as I got older, I again I had very strong hatred for the Father, and well, I ended up my eyes had opened up on first for me was food. Um, Amongst my rebelliousness childhood growing up, I never wanted to take uh, medicine, and I'd get sick, and my parents would try to give me some sort of medicine, and and again, just being a little rebellious kid, I guess well, why? Medicine hasn't been around forever. Doctors haven't been around forever. Anyways, I never really wanted to take medicine. But then again, for the most part, the majority of my life, I guess I had a good immune system or something, because I really never got sick either. So I never really got, there's a small handful of times, whatever, getting a little cold or whatever it was, I don't know, but nothing, nothing major. So apparently, I guess I had decent immune systems. Well, around maybe 7 years ago, roughly, maybe 7 years ago, uh, I ended up getting sick. And when I had gotten sick, I was in a lot of pain. And when I was in a lot of pain, I spent, I started, I started to look at the ingredients of the food that I was consuming. And I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff in this cereal that I'm eating here, and like a bunch of stuff I can't even pronounce. So I ended up started, you know, looking up the stuff that was put in our food, that most of the consumer world consumes. And anyways, as I would do more and more research on the things on the things that I liked to eat, uh, I I would stop eating those things as I would do research on them, and and I ended up changing my diet drastically, um, and abstaining a lot of those items that is put in our food. Uh, so I changed my eating habits quite a bit. And as I was staying on top of what was in put in our food, and it was just a daily obsession almost of what about this and what about this and I wouldn't just look at the negative of the stuff that was in there. I'd look at the positive, weigh it out, and so on and so forth. But anyways, I ended up stumbling across something that I'll share in another video, but that was in our food that had it opened up my eyes of, whoa, I can't believe the government allows this. Like, this is just insane. I can't believe, like, this is legal. And whenever I had stumbled across that, and I was checking into it to make sure it wasn't like a conspiracy, I'd checked multiple sources, and I'd gotten on that company's website. And anyways, it was a big eye opener of, hey, maybe I should pay a little bit of attention to what's going on with the government. And during this time, I was still totally against the Father. Um, Unfortunately, I would not daily, by no means, but unfortunately, I would back then, I would make prayers, but I would make prayers for Satan and my prayers, and so that just kind of gives you an idea of what I believed, and where my heart was, I guess, at that time. And so anyway, so then I started paying attention a little bit of what the government was up to, on you name it, you name it. I just wanted to pay attention to what the government was up to, not necessarily get into politics, as in, I stand for this group or that group, or whatnot, but it's just in general of, hey, this person did this, and so on and so forth. Well, it ended up getting to, again, I had total hatred for the Father, but I ended up stumbling across it was just an article. I was paying, I was doing a lot of reading on the food that we're consuming, and also just different topics of what the government's up to, or had been doing, during that time or in the past. But anyways, I had read an article. It was totally a secular article, and and I read this article, and it was kind of crazy because I have no way to explain it, and I don't know if this is the correct word I should be using, but I consider it a miracle, and but I had read this article, and at the end of that article, the it was like I had an epiphany, or it was like God slapped me in the face, and I read that article, and my eyes just opened up, and when my eyes opened up, I just remember I told myself, I'm sorry for the word I'm about to use, but this is really what I told myself. I used to use a lot more vulgar language, but I had told I read it, and it's just like my eyes just opened up, when they opened up, I was just like, holy crap, God is real, Jesus is real. I need to know His truth. And I fell down and cried and prayed, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I can't explain the experience, but that's how He had changed me. And I didn't have someone preaching to me uh, where I was like, it's pretty interesting what that guy has to say, and let me think on that. I didn't have somebody sitting right there preaching to me, or I wasn't bored. Hey, let me read the Bible. I was absolutely, totally against him, and then he just like slapped me in the face. Uh, he just changed me. Uh, so I don't, I, I'm, I don't have, you know, a younger background of just being raised as a believer or anything. I was totally opposite of a believer. Hence, big old huge tattoo on my back and whatnot. So he had changed me. Well, after he had changed me, I've been trying to change myself. Um, as a believer, I've been changing myself. As I read through the Father's Word, I I try to let it make an impact and change me. I try to walk on His path. Of course, I have my struggles that hold me down, but I do. I try to walk the way He walks, or not really how He walks, but kind of how He told us to walk, I guess I should say. But so as a believer now, I the way I view the Bible is a little different than most people. Hence the my YouTube name, Open Heretic. But anyways, when I became a believer, there was only one person that I thought was the most religious person, or the person that I guess I thought was not a hypocrite, I guess I should say, and that was my grandmother. So of course I talked to her, and she was super happy, and I really or I guess I shouldn't say I did it, but Yodewahe really helped her out answering her prayers. Um, my that answered my wife's prayers. I am married. I was uh, I was married before I became a believer, and so my wife has been seeing some very radical changes in me uh, since we've been together, and yeah, I've been a believer for right around 6 years, and I've been with my wife for I believe 12 years. I'm not very good with the timing and all that, but we've been together for around 12 years, and I've been a believer for like 6. So my wife has seen some very radical changes in me, and it, you know, she she's been bearing with me. Uh, so she she's tough. She, she's she's tough. She's been bearing with me. It's she's really a blessing. Um, and she herself she was a believer. She still is, but we never. She would never impose anything on me, and I would never impose anything on her, and it really worked out well. Um, Now that I'm a believer, I maybe I'm stubborn, but there's a lot of things that I disagree with on what she has taught and what is very acceptable of what people teach out there, um, based off my research, my observations of the scriptures and whatnot, my perspective. Um, so as a believer, I've been I still question I still question things in the Bible and anyway, uh, so I don't say certain things, and it's just been an awesome walk for me, and uh, the Father's truly blessed me, and he's changed my life, and it's awesome. So if I can give you any encouraging words, speak him. He changes people. He does. Uh, he does. He's very. I guess he's very mysterious because I don't know why he would have changed me. Um, Apparently, he's got pity on me. I guess more pity than I have on myself. Uh, so, but keep keep trying to walk out his truth and seek him. Um, Put his son in your heart and try to seek him out. Try to seek him out. He's blessed me in many ways. So I plan on trying to attempt to share some of my studies uh, with everyone, so I can either help someone out or somebody be able to help me out and correct me. I'm open for correction because I don't. I feel like I do an alright job studying, but I also know that I may not do as much studying as I could. So I'm very open, but I also would need to know why I'm wrong on certain topics as well. So I do plan on sharing some of my studies. One of the one thing that really put something in my heart, which I have read it multiple times, but it never really dawned on me until I heard another brother in the faith talk about it, and it was the parable of the talents. And whenever I heard him talk about the parable of the talents, I saw myself. And when I saw myself, I didn't necessarily see myself as the servant that I would want to be. So, if anything, I want to share my studies with everybody. So hopefully I can help plant seeds, or even be corrected. So uh, may may the Father bless everyone. Um, Real quick on my studies, I prefer to call the Father YHWH, not the Lord. Um, Obviously, most of our Bibles definitely say the Lord. Um, Again, whenever I was into stuff that I should not have been into, one thing that was very odd for me when I did become a believer was seeing the Lord, and that the reason why it was kind of odd is because I knew that even Satanists would refer to their father as the Lord, and I used to have this movie that anyways, I don't remember the name of it, and it's a bunch of useless or nonsense. But it had Anton LaVey. It was one of the movies of Anton LaVey, and and anyways, in his satanic ritual that he was doing, he was talking to the Lord. So, anyways, that's just kind of one of the small little details. I prefer to just spell out his name, not necessarily pronounce it or attempt to pronounce it. I just kind of just spell it out, YHWH or YHWH. Depending on your studies. Depending on your studies. Anyways, may YHWH bless each and every one of you, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my studies with y'all, and hopefully help out. That's it. That's all I want to do. I just want to help out. If I'm not if I'm not accurate, maybe there's one little part of what I say that might be accurate that could just help someone out. So that's my intention. May YHWH bless you, and keep seeking Him. Take care.